Hey, what's up? Shikata and I back again. We are going to talk about some more things for cyber threat intel and the Intel Bytes series. And today we're going to talk about something, a new interesting technique used for phishing using the Chromium-based browser's application mode. So if you guys aren't familiar with what I mean by Chromium, I'm talking things like Google Chrome, Edge, right? Those type of browsers that are based off the Chromium one. And they have this mode called application mode, just kind of interesting. So when a developer's making a web application, the reason and why they may go with that over a traditional application may be varied in cases. For example, if you're not using like a cross-platform language like Java or Golang or something like that, usually in the past, when you wanted to make an application, you would have to specifically target a platform like a Windows or Mac or Linux or whatever, and then code the application in that language. And kind of that's the way it was. And if you wanted to port it later on, you could do that and stuff. But it was kind of a pain. So really, the better way to do something like that to make a good application is to make it as a web application, which would be cross-platform as long as people have a browser, right? But the thing is, a lot of times they don't want that look and feel of a browser. They don't want the URL bar and all the all the things that come with a browser. They would want it as if it's a regular application. Well, enter in this application mode, which, by the way, they're going to be deprecating if they haven't already, and move into a different one. But it still works for today. If you go up here, for example, to the top of your browser, where it has the three buttons there. And you go down to here, it says More Tools. If you go ahead and click Create Shortcut, it would make a shortcut of whatever page you're on. So, for example, let me go to my website, shikataganai.com. By the way, if you haven't gone there, check it out. Great website. All kinds of different cool videos like this one and all kinds of cool stuff. So I'm on this website here. I'm going to go here to More Tools, click Create Shortcut. And we'll just call it Shikata. You'll notice that it's pulling the actual image that's from the tab up there. Now, you can change that, obviously, in code. So if you made your own phished HTML page, you can change it to whatever icon that you want it to be, Microsoft or what have you, to fool the user. But we're going to use it in this sense here. And then we're going to click right here where it says Open as a Window. Make sure you check that box there. I'll just keep it called Shikata, and I'll click Create. And what you'll see is this. Okay, it looks kind of like a desktop application. It doesn't have a URL bar. The standard user is probably not going to think it's a web page. They're just looking at it and they're seeing, hey, this looks kind of like an application. It's just, set up like an application. And here on the bottom of the taskbar, you'll see it's actually looking like that as well, right? And you'll see that it actually put it as a shortcut right here on the desktop as well. Now, if you right-click it and go to the properties, the key thing to be looking for this is things like tac-tac-app-id equals, and this is how they basically made it. Now, the one that's interesting to me is the actual application being used by default here is called chrome_proxy.exe. That's an interesting executable name for this particular one, but you'll see that it has all the properties of a regular shortcut, but when you open it up, it's going to be like this. So I'm going to close this and double-click it from here. And again, you can see it's a regular looking window, as it were. But again, if you click up here, you'll see there's all kinds of different whatever. Now, again, it doesn't look like it's a browser, so to the end user, they're thinking, okay, this is just a regular application. And, you're off to the races. Another thing it does as well is if you go to your Chrome apps, which I think is Chrome //app or apps. Maybe it's not app. Is it apps? Apps. There we go. It should actually put it in there as well, showing as a regular app. And I don't know why it's not coming up, but either way, no big deal. It should show up in there as a regular application as well. Which is kind of interesting. I don't think I have a shortcut to my apps. Anyways, I'm not worried about it. But it will show up there as well, looking like that. Now, something interesting you can do with something like this is to try to fool the user a little bit more, is you can go into the shortcut itself, go to Properties, and then from here you can modify the actual shortcut of the shortcut. You can modify the image by doing Change Icon and then change it into something else. Now it has to be in the ICO format. So what you can do for something like that is if you wanted to fool them, let's say for Microsoft, I know we'll do a Microsoft logo. If I could spell it okay here, Microsoft. And then we'll look for images here, and let's see, this looks good right here. We'll grab that from GitHub, and we'll save the image. I'll just put it into my pictures. We'll make it here under the Intel Bytes. And I'll drop it in here like so. And then what you can do is you can go to an online converter. So you can say online ICO converter, for example, and then grab that. We'll just grab this one. I don't really know if this is the best one, but we'll do it anyways. And then we'll go here to our, what is it, under pictures, and I did Intel Bytes, grab the logo. And then here you can choose whatever the size is. I'll just click convert, and I'll call it micro. And we'll keep it in here in the Intel Bytes, and there we go. So now that I've converted it and made the actual logo part, notice up here again, that's my icon right there. Okay, I can come here to change icon and browse for that particular one right there. Hit OK, hit apply, and Bob's your uncle. There we go. So it looks, you know, to them it may look legit. Now down here, you'll notice it's still showing this. That's because you'd have to go into the actual HTML and change that title bar, image, and all that stuff. And that's where it gets pretty cool, is attackers have taken this a little step further here. And this site here is a really good one, Mr. Docs, for these sort of browser types of attacks. Now, he did one back in the day, not very long ago, called Browser in Browser. And it's a phishing technique where you're actually rendering a browser within a browser. And it's there to kind of confuse the user into thinking it's such and such site, but it's actually a phish site, and all the normal ways that you would kind of detect that by looking at the URL and things like that didn't really phase this attack. But he did this one here, which is kind of cool, phishing with the Chromium's application mode. And he pointed out a few different interesting things about this on the attacker side. Is it will launch it in a separate browser window. The launch window is given a desktop application appearance, as we see here, no URL bar, none of that stuff, because typically you would tell your user, hey, make sure you look at the URL bar, make sure you're at where you're supposed to be. Well, in this case, there is none. so they're kind of like trusting, I guess, hey, this is just a desktop application that was given to me by such and such boss or what have you. The Windows taskbar does display the website's favicon rather than the browser's icon, and that's, again, where you would go and modify that. It launches the website while hiding the address bar. And that's the interesting part right there. Very cool stuff. Now you'll notice you can do it on Chrome or Edge, but here's the key right there, is this app equals, right? So you can do this in another way too. So if I go here to show desktop, I'm going to go ahead and right click and just do new, and I'll say shortcut. And for this one, I'm going to use, it says here, type the location of the item. I am going to grab the location of whatever my browser is. And you got to do it in quotations here because of the program files having a space, or it will give you problems. Why can't it? All right, so it's giving me a little issue. There we go. So I'm going to grab that, pop it in here. And then what you can do from there is you can point it to whatever website. So if you had your own phished site of Microsoft.com's login page via eviljinx2 or something like that, then you can do tac app, equals, and then from there you would put in whatever the URL is, kind of like what they got listed there. So for me, I'm just going to put my website again. I'll say https://www.shakataganai.com. Okay, and I'll close this one I'm in currently. So that's the location of where I want. Again, I'm taking the path of the Chrome proxy exe, which is being used to launch these applications. And this is what you would be looking for any monitoring or user education, is they can right-click the properties and look at this sort of thing. So I'm going to hit next. Type a name for the shortcut. I'll just, Shikata. We'll just do Shikata there. Hit finish, and bada bing, bada boom. And again, I can go ahead and right click it, go to the properties, change the icon. It says here that this particular one doesn't have any icons, so choose it from a list. So I'll just go ahead and choose the one we just had and apply and hit OK. So if I double click this now, there we go. And that's basically what they would do to make it. Now that's one way to do it. And if you go ahead and look at the properties or tell your users who you want to kind of educate on this to make sure they're not getting smashed, is if they get any type of shortcut file or what have you from anybody, have them look at the properties and take a look at the target and see where it's going. Because a lot of times there's these things called LNK files as well, which are also shortcut link files. And a lot of times the malware, like Bumblebee, for example, would point to another loader. So it would be kind of the catalyst. If you get this file on there via like an ISO file and they double click it, that's not the actual malware. They're actually pointing to a website that is actually going ahead and downloading it. So if they actually look at the shortcuts and always look at the target, they can see, hey, wait a minute, this is weird. This is going out to some other external website that I don't know about. They'd be able to go ahead and grab that. But this is, like I said, the key thing is right there, this TAC app telling you it's in application mode in this case here. And that's how to create it from scratch instead of doing it through the browser. So where it gets really interesting is what this guy did here, this Mr. Docs. He has his website right here, this browser and the browser stuff, where when you actually go into it, I'll just pick one here, index HTML. Excuse me. Right here, this is where you can modify these pages, and this is what he used for his browser and the browser attack right here. Same thing with the different iframes, which would be the browser and browser attack itself. All these different things you can modify here, including like whatever the icon is, the favicon, if you will, for the site there as well. See right here, this image source. You can also do that as well. So he has these templates here to make your own little browser and the browser template or attack or whatever. So what he did was just really interesting, is he's actually, because we know that the way that we do it normally through what I just showed you here, we know here that there's no URL address bar. But what if I made an HTML page and I coded using JavaScript or CSS like he's done here? What if I coded my own custom URL address bar and it was Microsoft.com? That's where it gets interesting. See right there? So it's a fake address bar that he's designed using just the basic HTML scripting stuff. And from there, that's kind of convincing to the end user because they're typically trained to look for odd things like Microsoft.com.intelbytes.com. You'd be like, oh, okay, wait a minute, that's probably a phish site. But this is directly the URL. And then if you actually had the actual login page via like evil Jinx 2, proxy thing that they do there, man, you could really fool a lot of people with this one. And again, there's no real URL bar in and of itself. It's the browser or the web page that's inside of the web page that is displaying this fake address bar. Man, tricksy hobbitses. I tell you what, that is some interesting stuff that he's got rolling there. So, and again, like you can change the favicon. This would fool a lot of people. It really would. And he did a great job with this one here. So again, this is kind of what you would be looking for. This key thing is this TAC app equals, and then whatever the actual URL is. Those are definitely what you're going to want. Here's a little demo that he's doing here, a little video demo. And I recommend this guy's site for a lot of different things. There's a lot of great browser stuff that's listed in here for it. So you can see he's opening it up as a shortcut, and there's no real address bar, but you see the fake address bar on the top, right? And down here he's talking about impersonating team software. I mean, look at these two here. If you didn't really know much about this sort of thing and you looked at this, you couldn't really tell a difference, right? I mean, these are really very similar. It's just one is made in a different mode than the other one, right? So yeah, pretty crazy stuff. And again, it's a Chromium-based stuff, so it's going to work also on things like Mac OS and Edge and Chrome, things like that. And down here, he's talking about how you can use JavaScript to control the window itself as far as where you want it to appear, if you want it to be centered, you know, those sort of things, because that makes it a little bit more realistic to the end user for that. So, yeah, crazy stuff. Now, like I said, my ideas for mitigation mainly would be, like I said, education to the user to look at the shortcut file, look at the properties of it, and look at the target of where it's going. If you do see that TAC app, you know it's open in an application mode. It is deprecated, so the reason for somebody using that may be suspicious because, again, it's been, from my understanding, it's been deprecated and they're replacing it with something different entirely. As you can see, when they say deprecated, they don't mean it's actually gone from existence entirely, but they dropped support of it. They don't want to use it anymore. I think mainly because of things like this, probably, but they have a new way of doing things. I can't remember the name of it, but you can look it up on for Chrome or under Google. But yeah, interesting stuff. So that is another Intel Bytes in the can. Make sure you guys check out shikataganai.com for all your different Shikataganai needs. And of course, you can subscribe here to this YouTube channel for whenever I post new videos. I have a variety of series like Pop, another server drop, where we drop into some different CTFs and I explain my way through how we battle and take on that CTF and teach you just basic concepts of ethical hacking or hacking in general. And then we have this series here as well, with Intel Bytes, where we go into more cyber threat intel, dark web, OSINT, those sort of things. So yeah, subscribe to the channel if you want to know more about it. Until next time, peace out, players.